The words of the day, I think you'll really be surprised because I really want to get into these words of the day. Oh, somebody's not very happy. Legion. It's not pronounced like we pronounce it, but it's legion, right? So what's a legion? Huh? What's it?
Military unit?
It's a military unit. Yes. Look, in English, legion means
Many.
a bunch of stuff, right? Legion. But this is a Latin word. This is a Roman word. This is not a Greek word. Notice it's in Greek, right? What does the Roman word mean?
1,000?
It means a battalion. It's not a unit of measure. It means troops. It's like a regiment or a battalion or a division. More like a division in specific or regiment. It is not a measure of numbers. That has to be very clear. O-M-O-M-A. Omona. I don't know how to pronounce this one. This is Greek to me. Onome. Onome is, this is a word that we translate name. But it really doesn't mean name. Onome comes from Gishinko. Genosko. Genosko, if you're familiar with this word, this basis is the basis for a whole bunch of Greek words that we've seen, means to know. This word comes from, onoma comes from ginosko. If it comes from ginosko, that means what? By doing what? How do I know you? By knowing your name, right? It doesn't really mean name, it means to know your being. Literally, to know your being. And the reason for this, know your being. The reason for this, what is the reason for this? I haven't talked about it. I talked about it a little while ago. You guys remember when I mentioned the rules of magic, the laws of magic, and how they apply in ancient societies? That was a few weeks ago. Remember one of the laws of magic? I didn't list out all the laws of magic, but one of the laws of magic is that if I know the name of a thing, then I control it. That's why it was so hard for the Pharisees or the people of the time to say the name Satan, or to say Diablo, or to say devil, right? They wouldn't say the name. It was okay to say the name Beelzebub, because that was another deity that was a false deity in their brains, or the manure god. It's okay to say manure god, but it's not okay to say the name of Satan. Why? Because they believed it was a real thing, right? And if you say Satan, then what did you just do? You gave Satan control over you, because you said his name. Because names have power. So if I know the name, theoretically, if I know the name of a demon, remember in Faust? If I know the name of a demon, then I control the demon. If I say the name of the demon and I'm unable to control the demon, what happens? He can control me, you see? So this is one of those laws of magic, that kind of thing.
Is that also related to the same Hebrew thinking that they would not say the name of God? Would not pronounce it?
I will say yes, it is, although that is one of the commandments. But you wonder, and I'm not saying the commandments come out of the laws of magic. What I'm trying to tell you, though, is this is what the Golden Bough, Fraser wrote the Golden Bough to disprove magic and, to a certain degree, spiritualism, all right, in his culture during that time. And it's an excellent work for that, because he wants to disprove magic and spiritual power, all right, in general, to give it a more Fraser is unfortunately not viewed correctly, I don't think, by a lot of people. They don't understand Fraser. But if you go back and read the Golden Bough by Fraser, his whole purpose, and he writes it right in his preface, is to disprove the fact of magic, the idea of magic. in the world. And the way he does it is he does it by defining it within an ancient cultural sense. And so within an ancient cultural sense, if there is a commandment not to say the name of God, and you are inundated in your culture, which we know this, the Hebrew culture was, with the idea of magic, right, and spiritualism, what are you going to do? You're not going to say the name of God at all, even though the commandment doesn't exactly say that. It's not exactly don't take the name of the Lord in vain, like we want to make it. It's really, don't say the name of the Lord without proper reason. That's probably a better translation. But they turned it into, don't say the name of God, period. And so much so that if you're Orthodox, you write God like this, with a line underneath. I didn't write that very well. G, line, D. That's God. And as a matter of fact, in the Greek, what did they do? Remember? I even showed you some examples. They took, and in Greek that would be, and trailing omega, or trailing sigma. I just put a sigma in there. I can't remember what trailing sigma is. Anyway.
No vowels.
Yeah, they pulled the vowels out. And they did that for, guess who, too? Yeshua, Jesus. So they pulled the vowels out because they were deities, because they were the deities. And so they did not say the name of God. They did not even write the name of God. And I'm not going to go into any more detail on that. But the point being that there is another word in Greek for a name, for a specific name, like a handle. And we've seen it before. It's not in Matthew. I don't remember what it is offhand. But this means to know the being of a person. And in the Greek worldview, if I know your name, I know your being. And by the way, remember today, if you were in the service, Jesus did one of the ego eimi statements. I am the resurrection, which is illogical in Greek. It can't be. I love those. As he said about 7 of them or 8 of them, I think, in John. This one, I keep putting it in there because if you don't have mysterion, you don't understand what's happening in the ancient world. And every time we see light or darkness, the contrast of light and darkness, if you see any of those kind of words used, this has to do with mysterion. We probably won't see much example of mysterion today, but I wanted to mention it because today I want to mention something very important that we may not have thought about. And I was just thinking about this, and I thought, boy, this would be a very good thought to kind of put in your mind. How many of you guys have ever knocked on wood? How many have ever spilled salt? Right? How many have ever not walked under a ladder on purpose? Or got disturbed by a black cat? You know what these things are, right? What are they? Well, what are superstitions really? Where did they come from? Huh?
Mysterion? Just guess.
Not really mysterion. They come from our pagan past. Most of them come out of Anglo-Saxon. A lot of them are Anglo-Saxon. The idea of salt is purification. That's way deep in almost every culture for some reason. Knocking on wood is purely Anglo-Saxon. I don't remember where it comes from exactly, but there is a part of the reason. Oh, it's Druidic. You knock on wood. Why?
Tree spirit.
To warn the tree spirit, exactly. Because Druids found trees to be a big deal. So you knock on wood. Hopefully you're not alarming the spirit. You're making them happy with you. Okay, you're placating them. But the ladder. I don't know what a ladder is. Maybe some guy got hit with something. But a ladder is a pagan idea. Black cats are a pagan idea. These all come out of our pagan heritage. Now, if you are a Hellenized Jew in the 1st century, what do you do before you drink and eat? Libation. You probably do a libation. And I want to mention this because this is not, we don't find this anywhere in the scripture. Why don't we find any of this written in the New Testament documents?
This was common knowledge.
Because it's totally common. Every time you walk through a doorway in a Jewish house, or specifically when you walk through the doorway, the opening to the outside in a Jewish house, what must you do if you are Orthodox? Or what did you do in the past? I don't know if they do it today.
Touch the,
You touch the lintel and kiss your hand, or you kiss your hand, I don't remember which way it is. You do one or the other, and you do the blessing. The blessing. Before you drink anything in Jewish culture, what must you do? Or if you're Orthodox? The blessing. The blessing for what you eat. If you are in an Orthodox bakery, and you may know this, if you're in a kosher bakery, what do you do every time you knead the dough? You take a thumb size of the dough, and you go a Holocaust offering into the furnace, into the baking, into the bake.
We didn't do that.
Well, you didn't have your rabbi. Your rabbi should have been there. The point is this, that in a Hellenized Jewish...
The first loaf for something in the synagogue.
Yes.
I think that's what that was.
Yes. The first loaf goes to the synagogue, which is, by the way, the showbread. But why do they, what are they touching on the lintel? Not exactly. There's a phylactery. There is actually a phylactery. They don't call it a phylactery when it's on the lintel, but it is one of the verses from the Old Testament that is encased in the lintel. Yeah, that's why they're doing it. And they wear phylacteries, right, on the forehead, depending on who you are. And a lot of these guys are Pharisees, so we don't see them wearing their phylacteries, right? But they may be. How do you know they're not? And by the way, before they're eating, because they're Hellenized, they are doing libations. I guarantee you they are. Because it's just like to us, knocking on wood. If you knock on wood, you don't think, well, I'm placating the deity in the wood, right? Of course, this is a plastic deity. It'd be pretty hard. But you know what I'm saying, right? You're not placating the plastic deity, right? What are you doing? Well, it's your culture. It's cultural. Now, in our culture, there was a time when if you didn't do that, what would people say? You're going to be unlucky, right? You break a mirror, 7 years bad luck, this kind of stuff. You know, people believe that. We don't believe it because we are basically a Greek-based culture that has moved out of a lot of that kind of superstitious kind of stuff. Some of us read Fraser, at least somebody read Fraser and said, hey, the world isn't made of magic. People recognize this because we have moved into the age of Gnosticism, which is even worse to some degree, right? But I'm just telling you that we were just talking about the disciples going across the lake. So what do you think they did before they went across the lake? What do you think a Greek person would do if they were going from the realm of Zeus to the realm of Poseidon? What's that?
Pray to him.
Now, a Jewish person probably wouldn't pray to them, but you're thinking on the right lines. Because, okay, let's say I got in my boat, right? It's a boat, it's a Greek boat. And I get in my Greek boat, and what do you think the Jews have in that boat? Well, not a lintel per se, but it's blessed, right? It was blessed by the rabbi, it was blessed, and they probably have, and I don't know what all Jewish fishermen do. You probably should go down and see what they do. They probably don't do the same thing they do now. No one's written down what they did in the past. But if a Jewish Orthodox person touches the lintel of their house before they go in as a blessing and say a blessing, what do you think they do when they get in the boat? Probably touch the bow of the boat, and there's probably a verse or something in there. There's some method. I know what the Greeks did. We know what the Greeks did. You know what the Greeks did before they got in the boat? They took a cup of wine, or barley meal, but using wine, because, man, you don't want to make Poseidon angry. And they would pour it into the water. And they pour a little bit into the boat. This is sympathetic magic. Because if I put a little bit if I placate Poseidon, because I'm going to Poseidon's realms from Zeus's realms, right? And I put a little bit of the offering into my boat, Guess what?
Keeps the boat safe.
Keeps the boat safe. So what do you think Hellenized Jews will do?
So is that why we christen boats with a?
It is exactly why we christen boats. Bingo! You get the prize for the day. This is why we christen boats. It's exactly what we do. So, we are placating Poseidon. You didn't know that, did you? It's a cultural thing. It's what we do, right? So, I'm just pointing out to you that when the Jewish guys got in the boat, we don't see the picture. The question is, did Jesus do it too? Would Jesus knock on wood? Would Jesus christen a boat? I disagree.
Why don't?
Jesus
why-
totally
I mean,
wrapped into this culture.
I'm not disparaging anybody. I mean, in our own church, some of us do, some of us don't. The sign of the cross. I mean, it's tradition, it's culture, it's whatever, but does the people that do it, are they more Christian than someone that doesn't, or?
Luther said, for your own good, you should make the sign of the cross 3 times a day. When you rise, at noon, and when you go to bed. That's what Luther said. He also said you need to do the Lord's Prayer at least 3 times a day, too. You know, in the hymnal, it has a cross mark when you're supposed to do the sign of the cross. And I agree. And this is my point. This is my point. Do you think Jesus was wrapped in his culture and did everything his culture did?
Yes.
Yes.
Was that a command or a suggestion?
Ask Luther, and he's dead. I don't know.
The little box on the door for Jews.
Yes.
Called a mezuzah.
Yes,
Is
mezuzah.
commanded out of Deuteronomy. So it seems likely if it goes back to the Torah, that Jesus probably would have done whatever was culturally active at that time.
And that is right on. The point I want to make is this, though. It was not cultural for Jews to do libations, but it was cultural for Jews to give the blessing of the wine or the bread before they partake. Always. So guess what we know they were doing in that century? When they blessed the wine, they gave a libation. Why? What if you didn't give a libation and you have Greek people around you?
You're upset with you.
You just offended the Greek people. So if you are, and by the way, here's a guess for you. Were the Hebrew people great merchants or poor merchants? Were they great money handlers or poor money handlers? Did they upset the people in the cultures around them or make them relatively happy? That's why there were Jewish enclaves in cities which didn't have any other gods. Remember in Athens, there's an enclave of Jews, we know that. In Rome, there's an enclave of Jews, we know that. Now they got purged over time, but you know, they came in because the masters of the city allowed them to have these enclaves. And the only way you could retain your ability to be in those enclaves was by sharing the structures of their culture. Because if you didn't, they'd kill you. If you didn't, they wouldn't buy from you. If you didn't, they wouldn't borrow money from you. These are important things we need to realize. So I'm just saying, we don't know because it's not written down, but I suspect that Jesus, just like everyone in his culture, did a libation and a blessing. He did the blessing because it's Jewish. He did a libation because it was cultural. See?
And to your point, he probably didn't want to scare the other people in the boat by not doing it, thinking that he's bringing a curse down on them. So,
Precisely. However, remember what we did about going across the sea? He directly opposed Zeus and Poseidon. Now, with that in mind, what you did when you got off your boat, and hope you didn't lose your wine, what you did when you got off your boat, you did what when you got off, if you were Greek?
Poured some more wine in the water.
You poured some wine on the soil, because Zeus is the god of the land, right, area, and when you pulled your boat back up on the land, if it was that kind of boat, you poured a little bit. If you ever wondered why all the triremes were pulled onto land, you ever seen the pictures? They didn't leave the boats in the water for a good reason. Well, because of Poseidon. You know what I'm saying? If you left it as a gift to Poseidon, now when they got bigger boats, they had to change their theology. But that's another question entirely. You know, this is the thing about human cultures. You know, it's amazing how we want to change or vary our theology to match what we're doing now, whether good or bad, right? Let's go to chapter 5 in verse 1. I'm not going to reiterate everything that we talked about, but let's talk about some stuff. So they went across the region of Gerasenes, or Gerasenes. That's 1. Verse 1, chapter 5. And remember, I drew you a picture and showed you where the Gerasenes were. That's where the Decapolis is. That's where the 10 cities, it's a Greek area, so it's Greek. And Jesus got out of the boat. A man with an evil akathratros, an unpurged, unclean spirit, pneuma, came from the Memnon. It's not tombs, they're tombstones. It's a Greek, it has to be a Greek graveyard, a Greek cemetery. Because they are Memnon. They have stones with carvings on them that carve the thing. And also, this is my point. When Jesus got out of the boat, what did they do? The first thing he did. If they're following Greek culture, following Hebrew culture, when they step out of the boat, they would most likely, right? And if they are Greek culture, they would pour a libation into the soil after they pulled the boat out. What do you think attracted this guy?
The wine.
Well, the wine. He wanted to drink. The fact, okay, what is this guy? Is he Greek or Jew?
This is a Gentile territory.
He's in Gentile? We don't know. But I'll give you one. If they were doing a Hebrew blessing on the side of the boat and he's Jewish, he's attracted because he's Jewish. If, on the other hand, they're coming across in this area, and they look like Jews and they do a Jewish thing, or whether they do that or not, immediately, if he's a Gentile, what is he going to do? If he's a crazy man, he's attracted to them, right? What are these Jewish guys doing coming across the lake into Greek Gentile territory? So anyway, it's just interesting that he came, because he came up out of the tombs. Obviously, the cemetery was very close, and let's see, the man lived in a dwelling where he talked about this in the tombs. They couldn't chain him, and then no chains, there's no chains, so they couldn't tie him up, or they couldn't bind him with wood, because they didn't have chains like that. And I think that's where he ended up. Let's talk about that. So he had been, this is 4, for he had often been not chained, that's added. He had haluses. There were fetters or manacle in the Greek. That's either being tied or like wood. And foot, pede, shackled by feet, basically with a wooden thing or being tied. But he tore the chains apart. That's not true. It doesn't say he tore the chains apart. That's added. It says diaspeo. He basically drew them apart. So he either plucked them apart or he untied them. And not broke the arms. It's sun tribo. He crushed them completely. Literally, he rubbed them until they were broken. So this guy is already showing what we would consider manic depressive kind of activity, right? OCD, total OCD. You know, he'll rub stuff, or he keeps working at it until it totally breaks apart. And it says no one was strong enough is added. Literally, no one could tame him. Damazo. It doesn't say no one was strong enough. That's all added. I don't know why they added that in. So anyway, the point is this. These are wooden shackles. These are ties. These are ropes. That's okay. That's not a big deal. It's just that it's funny. It's funny, isn't it, that in the King James and the NIV, what did we do to the bindings of this guy?
Well, we updated it with the culture of the time.
We culturalized it. We put it into our culture because we can't imagine somebody with wooden, with the wooden bindings or with ropes. Oh, yeah, I guess that's in every movie there is, right? Everybody's tied up with ropes. But we can't imagine that you tie somebody up with ropes, right? Because they can always get out of it, I guess. Anyway, yeah, sometimes. If it's the bad guys that can't get out, it's good guys that can, or the vice versa. Anyway, in 5, night and day among the tombs and in the hills, literally in the oros, in the high place, he would scream, krezo. He would scream and Katakopo, he would cut himself. This is like cutting. Anybody ever heard of this kind of behavior? This is very common maniac. Kids do this. People do this. Okay, I'm not a psychologist, so if you know the right word for this, tell me. But it's basically cutting yourself, harming yourself, screaming. Very common kind of mentally ill behavior. So this guy's showing what we would consider mentally ill behavior. However, what does the ancient world think about his behavior? His what?
Possessed.
Possessed by what? Okay, if I'm a Hebrew and I'm naked and I'm roaming around spouting stuff about God, what am I? A prophet. The way you know the guy's a prophet is in Hebrew is that they're naked. That's period. So John was not a correct prophet. Now, what do Greek prophets do?
What's the word you're using?
Naked. It's like naked chicken.
Like what?
Naked or naked? What are you saying?
I'm being funny, all right? Okay.
I'm sorry.
Naked. Naked.
Without clothes?
Didn't have any clothes on.
Okay.
Your humor's wasted on that.
I'm sorry. My humor's wasted. You know, I thought it was.
I'm sorry that the only two right here are the ones that aren't getting it.
I don't watch TV, but I see the posters for naked checking, so I thought everybody knew that one. I think they even have a commercial with a chihuahua on that one, but that's okay.
Steve, naked is the word of the day.
That's the English word of the day, right? The new cultural word. Hey, and there's all kinds of good ones, right? Input, log on. What does a Greek prophet look like? I'll help you. Think Delphos,
Oracle.
the oracle. What does the oracle look like?
A woman.
Woman.
Generally a woman. Generally a woman. It can be a man though, but generally a woman. And how are they dressed? Are they naked?
They weren't.
No. Why is it a big deal for the Jews to be unclothed, but for the prophet of the Greeks to be clothed? What's the difference in their cultures? In the Hebrew culture, taking your clothes off is considered unusual and rude. It's totally countercultural to be naked in a Hebrew culture. In the Greek culture, what is it? It is usual. It is common. The Greeks went about in a half-clothed stage for just because they liked it. I don't know. They ran the Olympics without clothing. They did religious things without clothing, and not sexually. It wasn't a sexual issue to them. They were, what's very interesting is that there's not a prudishness of societies, but our society is very interesting because when the clothes come down, the sex level seems to go up in our culture, which is really odd in most cultures. In most cultures, when the clothes come down, the sexual level goes down because it's not a big deal anymore. Where when the clothes come on, Victorian era, show a little bit of ankle there, right? You know what I'm saying? So it's very unusual in the culture to have this kind of thing. It shows that we are in a Gnostic kind of culture. But in any case, the big deal is if you are Greek and you are a Greek prophet, the Greek prophets dressed like John did because he was oddly dressed. When you were giving a message to God in a Greek culture, of God in Greek culture, how did you speak? What did the oracles do when they spoke?
Were they kind of speaking in tongues or something?
They were speaking in tongues, precisely. There are 5 words in Greek for speaking in strange languages. Only one of them, actually 2 of them mean a barbarian tongue. But they were speaking Kledon or Omphe. Kledon is generally the type of speaking where you're speaking in like tongues, where people can't understand you, and so therefore you need an interpreter. So either the priest interpreted or the oracle herself would interpret. This is the way you find prophets in the ancient world. And we would call it, you are being possessed by God, if you're a Hebrew, right? And if you are a Greek, you are being possessed by a god. This guy, you know, our assumption, notice it says it is an unpurged spirit. We translate that as evil. But why do we translate that as evil? It's not necessarily evil, but the implication is, what kind of spirit is this? It's a Greek god, right? So a Greek god is in this guy. That's the implication. So, in 6, when he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him, and proskuneo, he kissed his feet. Okay, in our world we don't kiss people's feet very often, but in the ancient world it's very common as a means of worship or of acclamation to them. So he ran up to Jesus and knelt and went down and kissed his feet. Remember Mary Magdalene? Did the same. And Mary also did the same. He shouted, he crazoed, he screamed literally at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Huios of the Most High, the Hupistos, highest Theos, highest God? Swear to God that you won't torture me." Okay, remember I told you, Mark showed us Jesus claimed in the parables to be what? The Son of God, and also to have power over the gods, right? And guess what? First of all, he calms the seas, he beats Poseidon, he beats Zeus, and then he goes into the land of the Gentiles, and this guy comes up, and we don't know yet if he's, we don't know. There's no indications if he's Gentile or Jew, but the first thing he does is he goes down on it, he kisses his feet, and he says, he identifies him. "What do you want with me? Jesus, Son of the Most High." Has anybody called him this yet?
No.
What does this indicate? It indicates two things. It indicates what? First of all, to a Greek person. What does this indicate? It's the proof text of who Jesus is, because this guy is possessed by a Greek god, and the Greek god just did what? Acknowledged it. Now, from a Hebrew standpoint, if you're Hebraic, what is in this guy?
Evil spirit.
A demon, evil spirit. Let's call it a demon, because evil spirit's kind of, outside even the realm of that thinking. But a demon, right? A bad thing of some type. It could be a Greek god. Who knows? But the fact, if you're a Hebrew and all of a sudden this guy comes up and he says, Jesus, the Son, the Huios, the offspring of the Most High, what did he just do? Confirmed who Jesus is. Because Jesus said in the parables that he was the Son of God. Right? Jesus did not make this claim. This guy, Mark does not say that Jesus is the Son of the Most High. He says Son of Man, right? He doesn't say he's the Son of God. This guy doesn't just say he's the Son of God. He says he's the Son of the highest God, which now puts the Jehovah God where? Above everybody else. This is the question that all the Gentiles, all the Greeks, all the Romans want the answer to. What is the applicability of Jesus to me? And does this Jehovah have power over the gods? Right?
Where on the food chain does it fit?
Where is he on the food chain? And can he do me any good? Because I'm in Rome, right? Mark is probably writing this in Rome. Or if I'm not in Rome, I'm probably in Athens. I'm in Greece. I'm in Thebes. I'm someplace else other than Israel. And this God has power. We know he has power in Israel because he is the God of Israel, right? Does he have power in the Decapolis? What's really important about this is, what is the land of the Decapolis? It used to be what? It used to be Israel. It used to be Israel. What is this God Jehovah doing through Jesus Christ right now? He just did what? He reclaimed the land. And not only that, he didn't just reclaim the land, he just said he is the highest God. And you know what? It isn't the words of Mark. It isn't the words of Jesus. Whose words is this? Well, in their sense, it's a Greek god or a demon. So the guy said, okay, and he asked him, Swear to God that you literally, and I love this word, beat my feet. Why beat your feet?
Pretty tender down there.
This beating people's feet was a great torture they used in the ancient world, because your feet are very tender and it's not very nice to do. And usually it's not the bottoms of your feet, it's the tops of your feet. And so they would, and you know what? Think about this guy. What did they do to him? They put him in basically the stocks and did what to his feet? Beat his feet. So this, you know, we as English speakers, we think euphemistically, right? This never happened to this guy, right? This never, but what did the author tell us? If you're Greek, it's all concrete. This guy is speaking totally from experience. This is his life. Every time people catch him, that's why he's living in the tombs. Because guess who won't go after him? The Jews won't, because the Jews don't go where it's unclean, right? And he's unclean. And the Greeks won't go after him because, you know, they don't mess with the cemeteries except when they're burying people. So people don't bother him because he knows if they catch him, they're going to put him stocks and they're going to beat on him. And he asked Jesus, are you going to beat on me? This is very important because not only is this a declarative statement, because what is the question that you might ask God? Let's say that you're a Gentile or even a Jewish person, and you know that you've been doing the wrong thing, right? It comes to you that, hey, I've not been doing what the Jehovah God says I should be doing. What's your first question?
What are the consequences?
What's the consequences? Right? This is what he's asking. What's the consequences? Right? That's your question. That's my question. That's the Greeks and the Romans question. What's the consequences of following this Jehovah God? Right? And some might say, hey, if a little beating in the stocks will to make it right, that's okay. This guy might even say that. I don't know. Let's see what he says. And Jesus said to him, Jesus legoed him, argued to him, come out of this man, you akathrantos, you unpurged spirit, pneuma. And Jesus asked him, what is your onome? What is your being? What is your being? My being, I am known by being, is legion. No. My name is the Roman Legion. The Roman Legion. There's only one way to read this, period. I am the Roman Legion. Now, Jesus and Mark cannot write, I am the Roman Legion, because if he did, what would happen? You're toast. But I can say, I am Legion, because Legion means in the Greek, in the Latin, not in the Greek, but it's a borrowed word. It means I am an army. But what is an army of? You don't call the Parthians a legion. You don't call the Greeks a legion. There's only one legion. The Roman Legion. Okay? So, what is your name? He basically said, I'm the Roman Legion. And then it goes on to say, for we are polis. Now what's funny about this word polis? In Greek, polos means many. Polos means a city. The Decapolis. Okay? Just saying. There's some really cool stuff in here that's purely linguistic. Okay. Jesus just slapped Zeus in the face by getting rid of the storm. He just slapped Poseidon in the face by taking Poseidon. Who's he getting now? He just slapped the Romans. Because this is what happens. In 10, and he begged. And literally the word is parakleo. And what's really important about the word parakleo? Parakleo. I don't want to go into huge detail about what this is, but parakleo means near call. And near call, parakleo is the word that Paul uses all the time. For God and man's actions, specifically God's actions, did Jesus and God parakleo you? The reason he uses this word is because parakleo means, in the Greek sense, like your mother or father calling you. If your mother says, Chris, come here right now, right? That's parakleo. If she says, Chris, I know you hurt your foot, come here right now. That's parakleo. Because in the word is both, this is why the word in English is translated both to punish or to console or to punish, to chastise. Yeah, chastise is another word. To discipline. To discipline, it has all kinds of things. But the point is that basically, he near called Jesus. He near called Jesus. So he paternalistically called to Jesus again and again. And who's begging? Who's the begging ones? And why are they paternalistically talking to Jesus? The ones who are begging him are the legion. The Roman legion that's these demons in this man. And let's take a very quick second. For your sake, Mark just told you what is wrong with this man. What is wrong with him? What is his problem? No. What made him like this? You have two choices. If he's a Gentile, what caused him to be like this? He's a deserter from the Roman legion. Okay? If he is a Jew, what made him like this? He was probably taken by the Roman legion for breaking some Roman law and escaped. Right? He's an escapee from the Roman legion. So in either case, whichever way you want, I'm going to bet he's a deserter. I'm going to bet he's a deserter because that's why he's hiding out. That's why he's away. And that's why the punishment was this great Roman punishment. Because remember, the Romans have their own torturers and punishment guys in their legion. That's their job. So, do you see how this all kind of comes together? The Mark is telling us who this guy is. It's all cultural. And so this guy's probably, I'm going to bet he's a deserter, but let's say he's not. Let's say he just is totally, the Roman legion, what? Raped his wife? Killed his children? Destroyed his house? That's not usually the way the Romans do it. But, the Romans, if they're ordered, would do something like that, right? They're not supposed to be harming the people and the lands because that causes real significant problems for them. So, whatever happened in this guy's life, it was the Roman legion that did it. And therefore, this unpurged spirit that calls itself the legion is whatever is bothering him. I've gotten to psychiatric stuff, but this is the point, right? That's what made him the way he was. So he begged. And who begged? The legion begged Jesus. That's why it's paternalistic. Not to send them out of the lands. What lands? The Roman legion asked Jesus not to send them out of what lands?
Israel?
Yeah, the lands that they are in charge of. This is the answer to the question that everyone wants to know. Why is Jesus not a militaristic leader? Mark's telling you right now. In 11, a large herd of pigs, charios, hogs, was feeding on a nearby hillside. We find out that there are about 2,000 of these guys. 2,000. I told you last week. What do they sacrifice pigs to? Which one? Which one is the special providence of piggies? Little piggies. Zeus. The abomination of desolation was when they went in and they basically knocked the mesoccline down because you can't have the enclosed area. You cannot have in a Greek temple blood in the enclosed area. They went and knocked down the mesoccline and they I should draw a picture of that time. Anyway, they did that and then they put on the altar an altar to Zeus and they sacrificed a pig to Zeus. That's the abomination of desolation that happened during the apocryphal period. That's the big deal. And so right now, in the Decapolis, there are 2,000 swine, and they are sacrifices to Zeus. Now, what does that mean there's close to here? A temple. I don't know which one. A good archaeologist would probably go out and try and find this place, because I bet it's there. I didn't go look into research in the data, but I'm sure you can find one here. The demons in 12 begged, Parakleo Jesus, send us among the pigs. Allow us to go into them. What did the Roman legion just ask to do? Be sent to the Greeks. The Greeks. They're in the Decapolis. The Roman legion, these demons said, hey, send us to the Greeks, to the Greek gods. And look what Jesus does. He gave them permission, and the acanthros spirits, the unpurged spirits, came out and went into the pigs. And the herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake, into the thalassa, and were drowned. What did Jesus do? He just sacrificed what? He sacrificed Zeus's pigs to Poseidon. And the word is, they were choked. Now in English we say drowned, because drowning is, if you drown, it's you, right? Why does it say in the Greek they were choked? Who kills you when you drown in Greek thought? Poseidon. They were choked by Poseidon. I mean, this is so beautiful. What Mark just did is he just slammed the Romans, he just slammed the Greeks, he just slammed Zeus, and he just slammed Poseidon. One after another. If he said this out loud, what would happen to him? If Mark said this out loud, what would happen to him? He's dead, right? He's writing this for a Roman crowd and a Greek crowd. Guess what? The Romans and Greeks get it. They understand. Why do you think there was so much animosity to the disciples and to Mark and to Peter and all these guys? Because they didn't say it out loud. This is a Greek logos to tell us. They did what? They hid it in a logos to tell us that is evident in their culture without any, we have to be led down it because we don't understand the culture. But when you understand what the words mean, you understand how the culture reacts, you immediately go, well, holy smoke. This is pretty big stuff. This isn't just putting a bunch of demons in pigs. If you could just put demons in pigs, that's a pretty big deal, right? But if you're sacrificing Zeus's pigs to Poseidon, this is the way that world thinks. In 14, those tending the pigs ran off and reported. They announced. Why did they go off and report right away?
Well, if they were responsible for taking care of them and now they're drowned at the bottom of the sea, they're in trouble.
They're in big trouble, right?
Yeah.
They better find some scapegoat, because they just took the pigs that were promised to Zeus. And by the way, when you sacrifice to Zeus, what happened to the pig? Yeah, you ate it. You ate it. So, that was our bacon, guys. Oh, man. Our bacon just went to the sea.
So, you explained what the Greeks would have thought about this. What would the Hebrews have thought about the spirits going into the pigs?
They were unclean. They were unclean already.
Well, would have confirmed their distaste for hogs.
Well, see, we want, we've been taught all our lives, right? That this is just about, this is a nice little fairy tale about, Jesus, and, he's putting the demons in the pigs are unclean animals, and the Jews, do this and do that. Well, yeah, the Jews know it's an unclean animal, but how would the Jews see it? What do you think? They're Hellenized. What do they know? This is a slap in the face to Zeus. And the fact that it was unclean animals just punctuates it. Right? Because Jehovah, who is, remember this will always tell us. So at the very beginning, we were told that Jesus is the Son of the what? Most High. So that Most High God said that bacon is not to be eaten. You have to have turkey bacon. You can't have piggy bacon, right? And so the Most High God just did what?
Confirm their belief.
Confirmed his power and their belief. Because he just fed Zeus's pigs to Poseidon. This is a joke. I mean, I'm not saying everybody's going to be laughing, but do you see there's a punchline to this? This is a big punchline. And it's not, you know, we see all this stuff as almost colorless, right? It's colorless. It's just, you know, it's this story, right? But imagine this. Imagine this from the people. And I don't think it's a story. I think this is real. This is history that we're viewing. We're seeing history in the making.
But see, this is gonna affect the whole community. I mean, 2,000 pigs that this community is not going to get to eat because they're gone.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's something worth putting in your thinking cap for, you know, that. And you know, the question that the question that the guy asked at the beginning was what? Are you going to torture me? And guess what Jesus just did? Well, he didn't torture the guy. He released him. Who did he torture?
Everybody else who doesn't get the pig meat.
Well, the people
didn't torture him.
The people that tortured him. The people that were basically, the guy that was punished wasn't this guy. Do you see this? He went to Jesus and bowed down before him and basically acknowledged him, right? And he said he didn't expect to be freed from the demons, right? But his question was this: are you going to torture me? You know? And what did he do? He didn't torture the guy who was mentally ill or, you know, had this problem with the Roman legions or whatever. We don't know what it is, really. What he did was he punished those who had persecuted this man. That's the point. He punished Zeus. He punished the Roman legions. He punished the people of the Decapolis, the people of this area. That's who he punished.
How are we making this? How do we know when the man is talking and when Legion is talking?
It's evident within the Greek, and so it's pretty easy to pick out of the Greek. And I tried to get you or put it for you specifically. But let's look because
Isn't Legion the one that's saying, "I adjure you by God, do not torment me"? I'm reading the English. Is this the man or is this Legion?
that is inconclusive. But the man with the unpurged spirit, did the man acknowledge him? What was from the man? I think the man acknowledged him and the demons acknowledged him. And I think the man specifically asked, are you going to torture me? The demons weren't as worried. But did they spoke? But look what happens. This is what's really cool. When you finish, the bell's supposed to ring. Anyway, when they came to Jesus and saw the man who'd been possessed by the demons sitting there dressed in his right mind. So obviously he was naked before. So he could be either one. You don't know. Sitting there dressed in his right mind, they were afraid. They're afraid for lots of reasons. They're afraid because they lost their bacon. They're afraid because they lost the sacrifices. They're afraid because, okay, this is kind of interesting, right? The people began to plead, parakleo. They were talking down to Jesus to leave their region, literally go beyond the horizon. As Jesus was getting in the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. This is more like it, right? This is like the rabbi thing, asking to be a disciple. Jesus did not let him. He said, go home to your family and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you. And then it says, we've got to finish this, 20. So the man went away and began to tell in the Decapolis, how much Jesus had done for him, and all the people were amazed. This man was a Greek. Not only was he Greek, he was probably a Roman legion deserter, and that's the whole point. Now he's gone back. In any case, thank you, Father, for your word. We pray you look after us this week. In your name we pray, amen.